The Sony A7 IV. For me, this camera's been a dream in the making. I have what I would say are medium hands, but I think they extruded the grip on this enough where I feel comfortable just free holding it with this really heavy Sigma 24 to 70 zoom lens. This is a beast of a lens, but I can still hold the camera just free-handed and leave my finger out to snap the shutter if I want to. So, of course, if you're looking at this video, the specs are probably all over the Amazon site, so we don't really need to bore you with those. What I bought this camera for was its hybrid function. I don't mean bore you with the specs. The specs are amazing on this camera, but what I bought this for was the hybrid function because I do most of my work with shooting stills, and I think this takes beautiful stills. With this Sigma art lens, it takes amazing stills, and I have a couple other ones that I use as well. This camera has yet to disappoint me in its still quality, but it also does video. Now, it's not the best video or the best still camera in Sony's lineup, but it has this beautiful sweet spot where if I want to shoot, 422 10-bit and color grade it myself, I can do that with this camera. But then I can also turn around and put a 200 to 600 mil lens on here and go capture stills of wildlife, and get reach out of it. So I love that hybrid function, even in the handle itself, up on top. You've got all your regular options, but this kind of little ticker here, this hard button here, it allows you to switch from photo to video to Sony's S&Q mode, which would be like for shooting high frame rate stuff. So you can do that with one button. So you've got a manual, a 1, 2, and 3 in photo, and then you've got the same functions in video, so you can control those independently. Now, if you're looking to do just one, maybe you look into a different Sony camera like the S or the R, but if you're on the fence, or sometimes you do both, I've shot a short film, totally self-produced, but I did a whole short film with only this camera and a shotgun mic and a boom arm, but this camera and a couple lenses did the whole film for me. And then I was able to shoot photographs of the talent and use that to build a poster to talk about the film, all with one camera. In today's world, I think that efficiency is important. It comes with a lot of the Sony standard features just on the output side here. Most often, I'm using the USB-C port. I'll hook it up to my computer. Sometimes I'll even use this as a webcam. You don't have to add any software. You can just hook it up to your computer. For charging, for transferring files, it's exceedingly fast. Or like I said, you could use it as a webcam. It has 3.5 millimeter for doing audio in and audio out. So if you use something like a wireless microphone or something, you can plug that into the hot shoe and you can have your audio plumbed in through a proper microphone. Another thing I really like is the SD card port on the side. You can use an SD card, and you can use two SD cards, or you can use Sony's CF Express if you want to take really high speed shots. You could use CF Express, but what I'm saying is you get two mediums for storing data, so you can always have a redundant backup going at the same time. I have my SD card set to take JPEG photos, and the RAW photos go to the CF Express card. So no matter what, I have a backup option, but if I need to do something quick, I can just grab a JPEG off of the SD card. It's got a standard tripod mount on the bottom, and it uses Sony's FZ100 battery. For good or for bad, it's a big battery, and I don't have any complaints about it other than I can't. It's more expensive than the old CyberShot batteries, but it's huge, and one battery can usually get me through 2 or 3 days of shooting if I'm just doing stills. So no complaints there, and a lot of actual analog buttons on the camera. So I do back button focusing. That comes pretty easy to set up. You've got an actual movie button, so you're not reliant on the shutter, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 dials that you can easily reach. So I set mine to ISO, to shutter speed, and to aperture. So I always shoot in manual so I can make those adjustments as needed. It's enough to be a photographer's camera. It's enough to be a videographer's camera, but it's only one. And the full frame, the photos that you've probably seen on this video scrolling by, these are all things that amateur me was able to shoot and put together. This is, I fully intend on being the only camera that I really use for the next, hopefully 10 years. I think it's way overbuilt. The only drawback, if you are thinking about getting serious with video, if you want to do it, that's fine, and this camera is fine for that. But with the one exception being, if you shoot 4K 60 frames a second, it's going to crop that footage. Now, if you're fine with that, as I was, didn't care at all. Not a big deal to me. If I'm shooting 4K 60, it's probably of something really intentional to use as B-roll anyway. But if you do need that full frame 4K 60, then you're going to want to go with a different camera. This one cannot do it. But outside of that one kind of detractor for some of the video purists, I think this camera brings way more functions than necessary. But I try my best to use them all. Hopefully it serves you just as well as it did me.